뉴욕타임즈 사설 오피니언란 세 개의 서브젝트를 간략하게 한 번씩 읽겠습니다. Weinstein and the limits of she said, she said, she said. A chorus of voices is what made Me Too so powerful. Why did it backfire in court? I often wake up these days feeling as though I'm living in an upside-down world. Thursday was one such morning, just as Donald Trump prepared to spend another day in a Manhattan criminal court to face charges related to hush money paid to a porn star he allegedly had sex with in the same spot where Harvey Weinstein was convicted of rape 4 years ago. Mr. Weinstein's New York conviction was overturned. The decision was determined by a single vote by a majority female panel of judges who ruled that the trial court judge had improperly allowed testimony from accusers who weren't part of the charges, compromising Mr. Weinstein's right to a fair trial. But in establishing the limits of these so-called prior bad act witnesses, an attempt by the prosecution in the case to show a pattern of coercion, the ruling did something else. It highlighted the striking gap between how we've come to believe women inside the courtroom and outside it. I arrived at the Times in 2017, just days before my colleagues J and M began to publish groundbreaking charges against Mr. Weinstein. Accusation against him had been floating around Hollywood for years, but it was only through intensive corroboration, a paper trail, and importantly, the voices of multiple women that Ms. K and Ms. T were able to establish a pattern. The women of the Weinstein story became believable to the public because there were simply too many of them with too many similar details over too many years for us not to believe. Around 100 more women came forward with stories of sexual misconduct by Mr. W. Weinstein in the aftermath of that first article by Ms. K and Ms. T. The book and the movie that followed were titled aptly, She Said, a homage to that chorus of voices. And yet inside the courtroom, as I reluctantly learned last week, the opposite can be true. She said, she said, she said, she said, can unravel a prosecution. Put bluntly, America's court system has not fully caught up to culture when it comes to understanding sexual violence. On its face, the veritable tsunami of damning evidence against Mr. Weinstein and others exposed for wrongdoing seemed to solve a problem that activists had labored over for decades. How do you combat the he said, she said nature of sexual assault cases? The bad thing about the survivors is there are so many of us, she told the crowd. But the good thing about the survivors is that there are so many of us. 두 번째 기사입니다. On climate change, we are wrong. Republicans were once the champions of the environment. The planet needed them back. Conservatives were once America's environmental champions. Not that long ago, Republican presidents were carrying out the Clean Air and Water Acts, creating the Environmental Protection Agency, expanding the national park system, and even initiating the country's most authoritative report on climate change, the National Climate Assessment. But times have changed. Many of today's Republican leaders stoked fear and anger by mocking the most divisive climate activist while claiming that every environmental solution is a radical one. If they are not doing that, Republicans can often be found on the sideline and disengaged from the issue completely. The Democratic Party has also alienated voters with calls for an immediate transition from fossil fuels and with the Green New Deal's top-down, one-size-fits-all approach. The fact of the matter is this: we cannot address climate change or solve any of the environmental issues without the buy-in and leadership for conservative America. In my visit to communities from Texas oil country to the south side of Chicago to cattle ranches in Wyoming, I've seen how it's possible to bridge the divide. Conservatives might have disengaged from the issues over the past several decades, but voters often tell me they are ready to jump back into the conversation. What they are eager for are solutions that work for them. In medicine, skepticism isn't healthy. Patients have become more suspicious of doctors. Can we restore their trust? I arrived at the hospital one recent morning to find a team of doctors gathered just outside the patient room. The patient was struggling. His breath too fast and too shallow. For days we had been trying to work the line between treating the pain caused by his rapidly growing cancer and prolonging his life. Overnight he had worsened. his family, wrestling with the inevitability of his death, had come to a tentative plan, and I needed to make sure that his wife understood what was ahead. I explained that if he inserted a breathing tube, as she had decided overnight, her husband would be sedated. When the rest of their family arrived in Boston, we would take out the tube and he would die. We would not be able to wake him up, to do so would only cause him to suffer. At this, his wife had stiffened. Why wouldn't he be able to wake up? I explained that his cancer was so advanced that to wake him would be to give him the conscious awareness of drowning. I watched as she took me in, this doctor she had never met before, telling her something she did not want to hear. Her expression shifted. "Why should I believe you?" she asked me, and then her voice toughening. "I don't think that I do." That is how I found myself in that room early that one morning with my patient's wife, her disbelief, and the weight of the decision hanging between us. I knew so little about her. I did not know her history and or her interactions with the medical system. I did not know the story of her husband's diagnosis and treatment, or whether he had struggled to find care for his cancer. In our fractured system, I was just meeting her that day. I had no way to make her trust me, except to sit with her, to give her what little time with her husband we could, and to hope that, regardless of what came before, she would choose to believe what I was telling her.